Hi, my name is Ted Tasker. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of BI Voyage, and I want to demonstrate for you today some hospital admission data running on a version 1 parallel data warehouse from Microsoft. This one is a half rack, meaning it has 4 compute nodes, 4 servers working as one logical SQL server. I'm going to be demonstrating Microsoft Business Intelligence, but the key is, while you have huge volumes of data, you're going to be able to leverage this with the tool sets you already know. The data set I have has 1.02 billion rows in it. That's billion with a B. And that's a large data set, especially for people who are thinking about SQL Server. They're not used to getting fast performance from a SQL Server database running on those kinds of volumes. So there's a little note at the bottom of this for anyone very technical who knows that reporting services will cache things. And what I'm doing is I'm passing a date timestamp to my stored procedure. So every time I run this, it's going to go and hit the database. So I'm going to re-execute this report right now, and it will go against the 1.02 billion rows in the database. That was pretty fast. That was just a few seconds that it came up. I had 12 months of data. I was looking at 1 month's worth of data out of that, but all 1.02 billion rows are sitting in a single logical table from the end user or DBA using the appliance. They've created one table and worked with one table called hospital readmission. I looked at 1 month's worth out of that, and I scanned it 4 different times, one for each of these factors: comorbidity, the labs done, the length of stay, top 5 encounters. So this is the sort of query that previously on SQL Server might have taken you 10 minutes, 20 minutes to execute, or even up into the hours, depending on how you'd laid out your information. The key to a parallel data warehouse appliance is your DBAs don't have to understand how to lay out the information. They don't have to understand where to fit the file objects, how to leverage the LUNs. The appliance handles all that complexity for you, giving you a very fast analytical platform. It's great to be able to see what these top 5 reasons are in different areas. But when you have as much processing power as we do with the parallel data warehouse, we might want to leverage some of that processing power. And while this report may take a few seconds longer to load, I'm actually looking at a bigger data set. I'm looking at 3 months worth of data, the month that's selected and previous 2 months. As well, this time I'm going against it and trying to determine combinations, not just single groupings, but looking across things like comorbidity, labs done, and trying to find out what it is that really stands out as maybe the key differentiator. So again, this one scanned 551 million rows out of that 1.02 billion rows. It had the processing power to work with those volumes. It's got plenty of memory pre-configured already for you. And it came back with now factors, encounters, labs done, and last length of stay to see what is causing or what factors might be causing readmission. So one thing looking at this that becomes clear is no labs done is a big factor, right? This column right here. The no labs done is in every single one of my sort of top 10 of combinations. So that gives an analyst a clue of where to go. And the thing about business intelligence is we can't expect IT to create every possible report we want, have every possible parameter on that report. And what we want to do is we want to give our end users the ability to go and work with data themselves and to analyze and build more. So what we're seeing right here is Power View. Power View can be built from within Excel, or it can also be edited right here in my browser window. I'm looking at one that's already built. Towards the end of this demonstration, I'll actually build something in Power View so you can see how easy it is to use. But the key is, it's much more of a point and click, and we can expose pretty much anything we want to in this. So this is allowing an analyst to come in now, and he saw that labs done was one of the most impactful things, and so they can start looking at labs done. In this report, the analyst broke things down further using things like age range. And if I come down here, I can see my 0 to 10, 11 to 19, and I can see that labs done, no labs done. It doesn't look like there's any labs done in that 0 to 10 point of view. If I filter this down and look at, say, visit, no readmit instead, I see that discrepancy gets even bigger. I'm still not seeing any labs done happening in this. I'm going to advance over and take a little further look at this, and then on the second screen start to look at the breakdown even more. And up here I've got a chart that just shows me by 100% worth of my three values, the readmit status. But down here I'm looking at numbers of patients. In this case, when I first built this, I noticed that the 70s and 80-year-olds seem to be an insignificant portion. So I turned them off. I'm going to turn them back on here for a second. And you can see the 70s and 80s over here, there's hardly any patients at all in that range. And so therefore I just thought I'd remove it to make it simpler. So even though I'm not in edit mode at this point, I do have a little bit of ability to make changes and look at different things. I'm going to switch my view and look at this in terms of labs done. When I click on that, it starts to look even worse. Even though I've been doing these labs, you can see my readmit is quite high, but then the number of patients is really only 15. And if I come down here, you can see I've got a very small number of patients who've actually had labs done in that 0 to 10 range. So again, it seems to me that we've got a large volume of patients that are 0 to 10, and we're never doing labs, and so their readmissions could be an area where we can improve on. So let's go further, one more page. And in this one, the analyst went to town and started adding all kinds of different information onto that same page. And the thing is, you're going to see I'm going to build one of these, and it's all point and click, and dragging things is how I build it. But it by default becomes interactive. So if I come up here and I click on this, I can see my gender, female and male. Male, they're slightly higher. If I just wanted to look at female patients, I can click on this bar chart, and it updates all the other charts to show me just the female percentage or the female criteria. If I wanted to come and look at I've broken it down here now by 3 to 5-year-olds. If I wanted to look at 3 to 5-year-olds that had an initial visit followed by a readmit, I click on that, and things like admit source and the length of stay category all get updated to reflect just that group of patients, the 3 to 5-year-olds in readmit. So highly interactive, pie charts as well. I can click down here to just the physician referrals and see how that impacts it. So the key here is not the results that I'm finding, because this is phony data. It's me, who's not an industry expert, working with the data, but it's the ability to make a report like this just by pointing and clicking. So let me demonstrate now for you how easy it is to create something like this report. So I'm now in SharePoint, and here's the report up at the top that I was just showing you. And here what I have exposed is a model that could be built by IT. It could be built by your analysts as well, but typically your IT is going to build a model like this. It's sourced off of the parallel data warehouse. The idea of this type of model is that we would probably build it and populate it on a nightly basis or twice a day. And if an analyst comes in and they have the right permissions, they can click on that. And what it's going to do is it's going to launch Power View in design mode. And from here I'm going to be able to go ahead and build a report. First thing I'm going to do is up my resolution just a little bit here, less space, but allow me to see what I'm doing. And I want to sort of change the style because I find that the white, especially when recording, doesn't work that well. So I'm going to switch the background into a black. Lets you guys see it a little bit better. As you can see, I have things like image or different sort of style sheets, so I could make this look different in different kind of ways. And now I can build something just by doing some point and click. So I've been looking at age range in the other one. So here's my list of various dimensions. Here's patient age, and I'm going to take age range and just click on that. It'll add it into the report. Up here, it starts to highlight things that make sense and things that don't. And so I'm going to click on tiles. And I'm going to make that bigger. And what I'm basically doing now is making a container for my other reporting information. And up here you can see I've got my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, my various age ranges, and I'll be able to use that to filter the reports that I'm going to add underneath. I'm now going to go back into my field list and click on admit type, add that into the report. And then here's my hospital admissions table. I want to look at number of patients. And I'm going to change that into a different type of chart. So make that into a pie chart. Size that a little bigger. And then I'm going to start another chart. I'll do it again with number of patients. And I can go up here and pick pretty much anything I want. So let's look at the admit source. And then I can make that one into, say, a column chart. So I now have number of patients by their admit source. If I wanted to add other information in there, I could just come over into my field list. If I click on length of stay category, you can see it breaks it down even further. So now I've got that categorization. Again, this all becomes interactive just by default. So I can click on one piece of the pie and update down here. Turn that filter back on. I'm looking at it for 0 to 10-year-olds. If I wanted to look at that for the 70-year-old age range, I can just highlight that filter. If I wanted to have some other criteria on this as well, I could make these two charts a little smaller. And make my tile container here just a little bit smaller as well. And then I can, underneath here, add some of my other things to filter by. So like admit type. I can put that there. I can say that that's a slicer. And what I can do here is I can come in and highlight a certain admit type and have that impact what I'm looking at. Oh, admit type's probably not a good fit because I've got that up there. So I made a mistake, no problem. I just delete that. And instead of that, I want to bring in as a slicer my comorbidity factors. Get my comorbidity description, and now that becomes the filter for me. The other thing is, so now I've just built this. Again, I'm doing my editing completely in the web. I can come over here and save it. Head demo. Not saving it up to SharePoint. You can set SharePoint up with workflow. It could be I save it there, but before anyone can see it, my manager gets a notification that there's been a new report published and they need to approve it before it becomes available for general consumption. So you have a lot of ability to put controls in place if you want. The other thing I can do with this is I can export it to PowerPoint. And while many tools are going to do an export, and at the end of it what they're doing is just taking a bitmap and taking a picture of how it looked and putting that into your PowerPoint. So here's the PowerPoint I just created. Double click on it. It is PowerPoint, so I can come in here and add a new slide. A demo with text. I could take this slide, cut and paste it, fit it somewhere else. I'm going to just leave it in this same one. I'm going to go into slideshow mode, advance to my next slide. And there's this interact button. If I click that, I'm only being prompted because this is a demonstration environment and I like to be able to take on different roles for some of the demonstrations that we do. If you had this installed, you would just use your Windows login would have been authenticated enough for you. And so it just went, and as long as I'm on the corporate network and can connect to the SharePoint where this is stored, I now within my PowerPoint have a fully interactive reporting layout. So you could make a set of slides and you could come into those slides and be able to use them within your PowerPoint and answer questions live. if otherwise you might be forced to take bitmaps of numerous different views and put them in, but with a tool like PowerView, it becomes totally interactive. So that's the end of the demo. The things I wanted to show you were, we started off with over 1 billion rows of hospital readmission data. We showed you some SSRS reports running against those. So we saw how fast it was to run a report, even though it's going against 1 billion rows. I want you to know that PDW, while it's a new massive parallel processing appliance, there's not much complexity to it. In fact, it's easier for your DBAs to administer than it is for them to administer a data warehouse on SQL Server Enterprise, because many of the decisions and design decisions you would make about how to lay out your data are already taken care of for you. The tools you're currently using, you can continue to use. If they work against SQL Server, they'll work against Parallel Data Warehouse because we use the same native drivers, and you can get some very fast performance. The other thing we showed is just the power of the stack of Microsoft BI, because we can't expect IT to answer every question. We want to empower our end users to answer questions for themselves, and they're able to do that in a tool such as PowerView. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.